Hello and welcome to another DMI TeamTalk. This is Sean Kenny, Membership Manager here at DMI. And this week we're going to look at all things the Metaverse. Specifically, what is the Metaverse? You will, unless you've been living underneath a rock, have heard about the recent headlines about Facebook rebranding to Meta and all the things that this means. And within this, there's a lot of talk about the Metaverse, a virtual world. So we're going to explore this. We're going to have a look at what it is, its origins, so you have a bit of a sense of its background and where it might be going and what it basically means for digital marketers a little bit. So to begin, what is the Metaverse? Well, back as far as 1992, there was a novel, and this is where the name Metaverse comes from. There was a novel called Snow Crash, and within this kind of fictional novel, there was a world where characters could create avatars and live in virtual buildings, and hence the actual term Metaverse comes from there, and that's the term that's been thrown around a lot in the news. It's essentially an online virtual world comprised of augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D holographic avatars, and you can bring in other things there like video or any other communication that can integrate into a virtual experience. That essentially is the definition of what the metaverse is. And it does currently exist too, it just in a less sophisticated kind of way. And I actually have some examples here on the slide. So some of these you might be familiar with. So we remember a game now that's actually quite old. Second Life, I think, has been around for 15 years. Minecraft has been around quite some time, but it's had some adjustments and it's become a little bit more virtual, a little bit more of an experience. And then we have games like Fortnite, and with any parents of a certain age might have children who play quite a lot of Fortnite, or teenagers who play quite a lot of Fortnite video games. And we're going to come back to them actually in a little bit because they're still a player here as the metaverse kind of progresses into something else. But essentially, within a metaverse, users can work, play, stay connected with friends through everything from gaming, concerts, conferences, trips, anything that's immersive. It's an online virtual experience, a simulation of some kind of reality. And that's essentially what a metaverse is. Although, as we're about to see, what the metaverse might become depends on the development of some big key players. And one of them has been in the news recently, which is Facebook, formerly Facebook, now Meta. So just recently on October 28th, Mark Zuckerberg announced that the company, which was under an umbrella brand of Facebook, would become rebranded as Meta. And that particular company, as you can see here on the slide, it consists of Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and as we're going to look at today as well, Oculus. And Oculus is actually a hardware company essentially that's making a lot of this virtual reality stuff possible. So there is a link here to watch the entire 90-minute Facebook Connect conference, which took place where they made all these announcements. We don't have time to play that today. I do have a clip that I will play you just to show you a kind of snippet of what the metaverse is. But essentially, we should take a back step and we should look at the hardware that allows all of this to be possible. So this is what you're looking at here is the most recent version of Oculus from Facebook. It's actually also been rebranded to Meta Oculus, but it's the Quest 2 is the most latest version that you can get your hands on. And this particular hardware, we should give a history of it to understand how Facebook, the company, or previously known as Facebook, the company, has come together with a piece of hardware to kind of put forward this idea of the metaverse. Because as you may know, as you may read in the news, Facebook acquires or has acquired quite a lot of companies in the past. This particular company, Oculus, was founded in 2012 by four people you see here. Palmer Luckey, Brendan Oribe, Michael Antonoff, and Nate Mitchell. And that was in California in 2012. And things moved quite quick for them. So 2 years after creating their company, they actually sold it for $2.3 billion in cash and stock to Facebook. So it was one of those acquirements that Facebook made. A mere 4 years later, they released their first consumer version that you can actually buy online or buy in a store and take home. And some of you might recall the name of that was the Oculus Rift headset. Now that particular headset, it merged with a lot of gaming experiences. So already it was bringing together the gaming aspect of virtual reality and putting it together with that hardware. In September 2018, Oculus stopped operating as a subsidiary of Facebook and was melded actually into Facebook. So it just became part of the umbrella brand and not a company of its own. And then from 2019, Facebook actually released the high end, or the one of the most recent versions of it, the Oculus Go. It was actually the successor of Oculus Go, Oculus Quest. And now at the moment, what we have is the Oculus Quest 2. And that was released last year in October. And one of the key kind of features of that is now you have to log into it from your Facebook account in order to use it. So you can see a kind of timeline there from when Meta acquired the company in 2012, all the way down to when they start using it and ring fencing it and then bringing it into what we're going to look at today, which is essentially the metaverse. Now, there's a lot to unpack in this recent announcement. Within the recent announcement, a lot of it was, quite a lot to do with how Facebook would be operating, how they would be publicly traded. They're going to change their name on the stock exchange and all of that. A lot of that's kind of business stuff. Today, I kind of want to look at what are the actual announcements that they made that affect us digital marketers or people interested in virtual reality experiences and so on. And we start with a quote here at the top, and it was from Mark Zuckerberg, and it was making a statement about what the company was going to be now going forward. Obviously, we know Facebook as a social media platform, but it says here we will effectively transition from people seeing us as primarily being a social media company to being a metaverse company. So this is Zuckerberg basically announcing he is all in on this idea of a metaverse. And what was outlined in the conference I alluded to, which was 90 minutes long, was a number of different areas where they see this metaverse really changing people's lives, or kind of being key. Okay, so one, I'm going to play you a link here from Horizon Home. This is one of the features within the metaverse. This is the kind of social aspect of it. This is what they are hoping kind of replaces your traditional social media experience. And it's better maybe to look at it. If you haven't seen any of the demos and any of the Facebook or Meta videos yet, this might be helpful to give you an idea of what they feel this will look like for the user when it all comes to fruition. So I'm going to play this, and let's make it large screen. I don't think I have sound here, but I think simply the visual might help you just kind of understand what they think this will look like. This is the Oculus headset here. This is what I'm saying makes everything kind of possible. And when you put this on, you log in, you can be at home like these people here, but this is actually what you're seeing. So this is only a short 30-second clip, but you can see it's showing us that it's integrating everything from messenger calls to gaming to meeting people, and all these apps. You're able to choose different apps in real time and experience different things. So it's really a really ambitious project that's saying it's going to bring a lot of things together here. And we'll see here within the next slides the scope of what they're planning or what they're thinking they're going to be able to do here with this. So that's Horizon Home. That's the kind of the social aspect of it. But there are others they made in their announcement here. So Messenger, Facebook Messenger, you'll now be able to do virtual reality calls. And they're saying that this will be possible later this year, so at the end of 2021. And this will include audio calls as well. So you can simply send a link to a friend and have a virtual reality experience via Facebook Messenger. Gaming is a huge area. We're going to look at the other players in the metaverse now shortly, but gaming overall is one of the things that already exists with virtual reality and augmented reality and that integration of headsets that I talked about. Sorry, we go back here a slide. So gaming is kind of a whole area that's is already growing in terms of VR and AR, but a number of new game updates were announced during the Meta announcement, and one of those was a partnership with Vertigo Games, which is a massive gaming company. There's games there like Grand Theft Auto. They're in development, making a virtual reality version of that game with them. And they even have new events for VR Battle Royale, which might be popular with a lot of younger people watching. So gaming is an area that they're focusing on also. But fitness is another area where they're specifically looking to branch out. So they have they are saying that they are releasing what's called an active pack for Quest 2. And it includes things that even can recognize your facial expressions and bring that into your workout. They have this whole other area called Supernatural that already exists, but they have a new fitness studio within there tracking sophisticated things like hand tracked body weight exercises and so on. And then they also have another side of it, which is the pro athlete training programs. That's under Player 22, it's called. So they're going to focus on this whole industry as well. And then to move to an almost even bigger industry, they're also kind of targeting or looking at and creating hardware and experiences for people's work life. So we have Quest for Business as a whole other area that they're working on, and that's to have people create work accounts with their Quest 2 headset and their Metaverse account, whatever way that will look. And you'll be able to log in and you'll be able to go to workrooms, and you'll be able to have conferences and have meetings. Instead of perhaps using Zoom, for example, you'll be sitting in a kind of metaverse with people virtually present and, with their own avatars, perhaps mimicking how they look in the office and so on and so on. We actually have an image on the next slide of how that might look, but they're quite serious about this. They've already made partnerships with Slack, Dropbox, of course. They're bringing their own brands such as Facebook and Instagram, and they're saying that many more will be able to partner as 2D panel apps in Horizon Home. So you'll be able to seamlessly, if everything goes well, go between maybe your social experience back to your work life, or a kind of work conference or some kind of work related task, and hop around the kind of metaverse in that way. And what they're looking at is Horizon workrooms, and this image is kind of what they showed us as a demo. They actually had, to be fair to them, a lot of different images and creatives, but I've picked out one here. So the idea here is that you would log in through your workspace account, and you would attend these kind of meetings like this. But there's also other areas, though, that they kind of announced that they've been making waves in. So, it says here within the quote, the metaverse stands to radically transform the way we learn as well. And both of these next 2 points are kind of related to learning. So, Spark AR updates. This is the actual system that allows you to create virtual reality experiences. It's something that's quite sophisticated to learn, but they're hoping that a lot of individuals and people who are simply consumers will also become creators, and they'll be able to create things in Spark AR and upload them to the metaverse. So that's people creating their own experiences, their own content, and sharing it. So it's kind of keeping that element that they have with existing social platforms like Facebook, where you can contribute to the timeline. It's allowing people to do that, and that's something that they mentioned, and we're yet to see maybe how they're going to facilitate that, but they're very keen to kind of bring people in and allow them to create content. And they also said that this kind of links to an educational investment that they're making. So they've committed to $150 million in training the next generation of creators with Spark AR or similar platforms, so that people are really able to, I guess, accelerate the metaverse that they create. But they're not the only ones in this space, Facebook. The metaverse is something that's not really, or perhaps can never be owned by somebody. What we've yet to see, but other big players include Microsoft. Now, Microsoft are probably in the best position to challenge Facebook in terms of kind of winning the race to a full kind of comprehensive metaverse that we all log into every day. There's a number of reasons apart from resources, but they already have the tech to produce holograms, and as it says here, they are developing mixed and extended realities applications that fit in with something that already has the Microsoft Mesh platform. This platform actually allows these kind of virtual working groups that we looked at that Facebook are hoping to achieve. Just a little less sophisticated at the moment. But Microsoft recently announced plans to bring mixed reality, including the holograms and virtual avatars, into Microsoft Teams, and that's by next year. So that's not far away at all. And also we see that they're working on other aspects like 3D virtual connected spaces for retail and workplaces, so virtual offices or virtual shops. And one thing that might cause or pose a threat to Facebook, where Microsoft has an edge here, is the way they're approaching this is not through the headsets like the Quest headsets that Facebook have, but they're actually saying that when they're up and running here, they're going to be able to allow people to log into this metaverse from their smartphones, their PCs, and also the headsets. So kind of more accessible to the ordinary person. And they're saying that they will have a preview of this in the first half of 2022, and that is in line with when Facebook plans to launch a lot of the next steps of their kind of metaverse plans. There are other players, but before we move on to them, this is actually just a demonstration of what Microsoft hopes to achieve as it kind of builds in AR into its meeting function that has at the moment, Microsoft Teams. So you can see here it's not too dissimilar to what Facebook are putting forward in terms of the type of animation and so on. So very interesting there that the two are they have two different approaches, but their vision for what it will look like is quite similar. Other players, though, that are not insignificant, and I should say I probably could have pulled up 10 of these for you today, but these are kind of the next two biggest. So I've taken a quote from Tim Sweeney, who's the CEO of Epic Games. Now, I mentioned one of Epic Games' products already, Fortnite. Fortnite is a game, and again, anyone who's maybe teenage, early adolescents will already know Fortnite, but it's a game that actually allows you to log in and experience this kind of virtual reality gaming experience. And so they're already in the market. But an interesting quote here from Tim Sweeney, the CEO, he says, "It's no secret that Epic is invested in building the metaverse." So they already see themselves as having one foot in already. And they've actually done some very kind of amazing, impressive things already with virtual reality and headsets. So they actually had or held a concert with Travis Scott or Ariana Grande, and they've ran movie trailers and they've debuted musical bands, and they've had different things. That I recall with Martin Luther King, they had a recreation of his speech in a virtual reality setting. So they very much have already been working on the tech that's going to make all of this possible. And they have announced recently that they're also working on photorealistic digital humans. That's in development, and they're going to allow customization for each individual in doing that. So they may be a big player in this in the near future. And another company worth mentioning here is Roblox. So they were founded quite some time ago, if you look at kind of digital tech terms, because a lot of companies are quite recent, but they have already dozens of games that use VR or augmented reality, and they're valued now at 45 billion. So they're a kind of big player with a lot of resources. But they've already teamed up with companies such as Vans and Gucci to create kind of brand experiences. So they've kind of branched out from what they specifically do with games to work on things like, for Gucci, it was a virtual garden. You could walk around and look at certain products. For Vans, they actually integrated Vans into a game where you were at the skate park and Vans shoes were selectable. So it's kind of like product placement being brought into gaming. So they're very much in that space, and they're developing the hardware and the software and everything else that would be needed for a metaverse. But what's the future of this metaverse as it kind of intersects with digital marketing? Anyone who's watching today probably is in kind of has some relatable interest in digital marketing, and you might be wondering, well, where might these things go? What are the opportunities? The irony is that a lot of what we think of as traditional marketing may now come into the digital space. Things like billboards, product placements, ads on a kind of virtual landscape. So a lot of those things that we associate with outdoor advertising might come online, but into an augmented reality. But we have a list here for you of kind of things that may develop here and become spaces that companies would be very interested in. So live shopping and virtual stores, for example, or fashion shows, product demonstrations, like even events, virtual product launches, live flagship events, for example, or even enhanced social experiences, so that when you land on a kind of traditional social media type page, you're brought somewhere else if you wish for one of the above, or kind of some interactive immersive experience. And then branding and sponsorship opportunities. And I alluded to one there with Vans and Roblox. So Vans shoe company kind of integrated their product into a game. So we're going to see a lot of these type of opportunities. There was another recent one with NASCAR, where some of the cars in a race car game were sponsored by companies. So we're seeing a lot of these opportunities, and they're essentially product placement opportunities. And some brands are already building towards this. So we've seen Nike has prepared a virtual store for the metaverse, for example, which made some headlines. But you will see certainly in the next 12 months, a lot of companies start to plan for this, because the rollout of all this tech is coming in kind of Q1, Q2 next year. So with that, brands will kind of quickly follow. But having said all that, it's not a perfect plan, this metaverse. That there are concerns, and I thought I'd flag a few just before I kind of leave you. And so I kind of as a final thought, so it's not fully there yet, either the tech or the experiences. And there is a lot to consider. There's a lot to be seen next year with how all this plays out between Microsoft and Facebook and the areas that they're planning to influence, because the current problems with VR and hardware is that it actually hasn't been adopted that widely. One of the things is latency. And now essentially latency is how quick your connection is to the game or to the experience. It can lag with bad internet connection. And if we think outside of, if you're watching and you're from a very developed market like the US or Europe, yes, high broadband is quite available, and high speed broadband is quite available and in abundance. But there's many areas around the world where you can't get a connection that's good enough really to have an immersive experience. So this is one issue, and this is one blocker that's going to hold back widespread adoption of VR. Nausea is another one. Now, I've almost put in a medical description here, but essentially when your eyes and your ears and your kind of senses don't match perfectly with what you're seeing on the screen, it can cause nausea, which is obviously a terrible experience. High prices currently, and I guess with all emerging technologies, prices are always going to be high at the beginning. But for the headset alone, not considering anything you might pay for a bit of software or a platform, currently for Oculus 2, you're talking about €500 plus. And again, that's a barrier for a lot of people. And then there's privacy concerns, and we probably could have done a separate kind of talk on privacy concerns on Facebook at the moment. That's been in the news a lot too. But Meta is already collecting a huge amount of data on you, as we know, and we've covered in previous team talks. And one of the things now it's going to be recording on top of all of this other information is things like your physical features, or the audio of your voice, or kind of perhaps even your fingerprints and things like this. So they have to come up with ways to make this completely safe for your average consumer, your average user, to feel like no one is going to break into this world and kind of start stealing kind of valuable information, in very dangerous ways. And the last kind of point I'll leave you with in regards to all of the above is that as technologies like 5G and cloud services emerge and develop, we could see a reduction in some of the things above, like nausea or latency. But it really is, privacy is the one that is unanswered at the moment. Within their conference, there was no mention of how they would manage this, and they have been in Facebook, or Meta, now known as Meta. They have been in the headlines quite a lot recently around privacy. So let's see how that plays out. Lastly, just before I leave you, if you're looking for more information about anything to do really with digital marketing, or even the metaverse itself, we have some articles in there, with some new articles in there about what some companies are doing, like Nike. But feel free, if you're not already a member of DMI, get your way over to www.digitalmarketinginstitute.com/students. As many of you know already, within there we've got lots of different types of content for whatever way it is that you like to consume media. So we've got webinars, ebooks, podcasts, white papers, case studies, toolkits, the list goes on. And you can get in there for free and have a trial of it for a week. So if you visit that link, you can sign up there. I will leave you there, and I look forward to seeing you all again for another DMI Team Talk. And all the best of luck. Take care.